It was a crisp autumn morning in 1990, the kind of morning where everything feels still, normal. But in one suburban home, a profound stillness had turned into a terrifying silence. Sneha, a bright if quiet 20-year-old, was gone. Her bed was made, her favorite book sat untouched on her bedside table, a silent testament to a life abruptly paused. Her parents, Anil and Meera, called her name, their voices echoing in the sudden emptiness of their home. There was no answer, just the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall, marking time that seemed to have stopped for their daughter. Panic, cold and sharp, began to set in, a feeling no parent ever wishes to know. The police were called, of course, friends were questioned, posters were printed with Sneha's smiling face, a face that now seemed to taunt her family with its cheerful innocence. Was she taken? Did she run away? The questions swirled, a relentless storm of possibilities, each more dreadful than the last. The family searched tirelessly, their hope a flickering candle against a gale of despair. They walked the streets, peering into the faces of strangers, praying for a sign, a clue, anything. But the days bled into weeks, the weeks into months, and then, impossibly, into years. Sneha had vanished, it seemed, from the face of the earth. For her family, life became a fractured existence, split into two distinct periods, before Sneha disappeared, and the long, desolate after. Every holiday was a painful reminder of the empty chair at the table. Every passing year marked another milestone she had missed. They clung to the hope that one day she would walk back through the door, but with each passing anniversary, that hope grew thinner, more fragile. The neighborhood, once a place of comfort, became a landscape of ghosts and unanswered questions. The mystery of what happened to Sneha became a local legend, a cautionary tale whispered among neighbors. And so the search continued, but the trail went cold. Officially, the case was left open, a dusty file in a cabinet filled with other unsolved sorrows. The world moved on, as it always does. But for Sneha's family, time was frozen in that autumn of 1990. They were trapped in a state of suspended grief, unable to mourn, unable to move forward. They had lost their daughter, their sister, and with her, a piece of themselves. They believed she was lost to them forever, perhaps in a distant city or a shallow grave. They could never have imagined the truth, a truth that was closer, far closer than anyone could possibly fathom. 31 years. A lifetime. It was 2021 when a casual conversation between neighbors led to a revelation so staggering it defied belief. A local council worker making routine inquiries was speaking to a man named Raj, who lived just 2 doors down from Sneha's family home. The worker mentioned the long unsolved disappearance of the young woman from that very street. And then, Raj said something that stopped the world from spinning. He said that Sneha was alive, that she was well, that she was, in fact, living with him. And had been, all this time, right there, 2 houses away. The news hit the small community like a thunderclap. How could it be? For 3 decades, a family had grieved for a lost daughter while she was living, breathing, and sleeping less than 100 meters from their own front door. The police were stunned. The family was utterly bewildered, their grief instantly replaced by a tidal wave of confusion, anger, and a million burning questions. It was a plot twist from a film, too incredible for real life. Yet, there it was. Sneha, the girl who had vanished into thin air, had simply moved next door. The greatest mystery was not where she went, but why. It soon became clear this was not a story of abduction, but one of escape. Sneha's life at home had been a gilded cage, ruled by a father whose control was absolute. He dictated what she wore, who she spoke to, and what she was permitted to dream. Her future was not her own. It was a path laid out for her, leading directly to an arranged marriage she desperately wanted to avoid. The pressure was immense, a constant, suffocating weight on her young shoulders. She saw no way out, no one to turn to who would understand or defy her father's authority. Her silence was mistaken for obedience, but beneath it, a rebellion was quietly brewing. Her escape was an act of quiet desperation. Sneha had secretly been in a relationship with Raj, a young man her family would never have approved of. He was her confidant, her ally, her only hope for a different life. Together, they hatched a plan that was both simple and audacious. She would not run to a different city or a different country. She would simply disappear into the one place no one would ever think to look, almost within sight of her own bedroom window. It was a gamble, a breathtaking risk. But for Sneha, the prospect of freedom was worth any price, even the price of her own identity. For 31 years, Sneha lived a phantom existence. Her world shrank to the four walls of Raj's house. In the early days, the fear of discovery was a constant companion. She would listen for the familiar sound of her mother's voice carrying on the breeze, or flinch at the sight of her father's car pulling into their drive. She learned to move silently, to live behind drawn curtains, a ghost in her own neighborhood. She never used a phone, never opened a bank account, never sought medical care under her own name. She had effectively erased herself, sacrificing every aspect of a normal life for the sanctuary she had found with Raj. How did she remain hidden for so long? It was a combination of meticulous planning and perhaps the simple fact that people rarely see what is right in front of them. Raj was her gatekeeper, her only link to the outside world. He did the shopping, paid the bills, and handled any interactions with the neighbors. Their house was unassuming, their lives intensely private. In a world that was becoming ever more connected, they created a bubble of anonymity. No one questioned the quiet man who lived alone, because in many neighborhoods, privacy is respected, and questions are not asked. People saw Raj, but they never saw Sneha. Psychologically, the toll must have been immense. While she had escaped her family's control, she had entered a different kind of prison. A self-imposed isolation that kept her safe but also severed her from the world. Imagine hearing the distant sounds of a family celebration at the home you grew up in, knowing you could never join. Imagine watching the world change through a window, seeing neighbors age, children grow up, and life carry on without you. Her freedom was a paradox, a liberty found only in the most extreme form of confinement. It was a life lived in the shadows, a testament to the profound trauma that drove her there. Over time, the constant vigilance may have eased, replaced by a strange, quiet routine. The world outside her window became a television show she could watch but never participate in. She had chosen this life, and in her mind, it was infinitely better than the one she had left behind. She had love, she had safety, and she had a form of autonomy, albeit a severely restricted one. The ultimate irony is that in her desperate bid to control her own destiny, she had to give up almost all control over her life, placing her entire existence into the hands of one other person. The reunion, when it finally happened, was not the tearful, joyous event one might imagine. It was fraught with 3 decades of pain, misunderstanding, and unspoken words. For her mother, Mira, there was relief, but it was tangled with a deep sense of betrayal and hurt. How could her daughter let her suffer for so long? For her brother, there was anger and confusion. The sister he remembered was gone, replaced by a stranger who had made a choice he could not comprehend. The family had to confront the uncomfortable truth that the home they thought was a safe haven was, for Sneha, a place she needed to escape at all costs. This extraordinary story forces us to look differently at the world around us. It peels back the veneer of normality that covers our suburban streets and reveals the complex, often hidden struggles that can unfold behind closed doors. We assume we know our neighbors, that we understand the rhythms of the lives lived next to our own. But Sneha's story is a stark reminder of how little we might actually see. Every closed door could hide a secret, every quiet house a story of pain, resilience, or quiet desperation. It challenges our very definition of community and connection. What does it say about family? It shows that the bonds of blood are not always enough to guarantee understanding or safety. For Sneha, the fear of familial control was more powerful than the fear of disappearing completely. Her story is an extreme example of the lengths a person might go to in order to claim their own life. It speaks volumes about the devastating impact of psychological abuse and the desperate human need for autonomy. The family's failure to see her pain ultimately led to them failing to see her at all, even when she was just a stone's throw away. In the end, this is more than just a mystery solved. It is a profound and unsettling reflection on the secrets we keep and the truths we choose not to see. Sneha found her freedom, but it came at an incredible cost. Her tale lingers, a haunting question mark hanging over a seemingly ordinary street. It reminds us that sometimes, the most astonishing stories are not happening in some far-off place, but are unfolding, silently and invisibly, right next door. And you would never, ever know.